Listen very carefully and follow my instructions. Prepare your brain for the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast.
I gotta tell you, being an entrepreneur, I will not go through the rest of my career without taking nootropics. Aniracetam, paracetam, modafinil, Nupec, uridyl monophosphate. I mean, phenylparacetam, forget it. You could always have a better brain.
The Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast is about to begin.
Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast. I am your host, Ryan Michael Bell. Thanks so much for being with me. We're going to talk about, how to reset tolerance to nootropics. I think this is like a big topic among nootropics enthusiasts and even beginning users, because you figure out after using particular nootropics too consistently without a proper cycling strategy that tolerance happens, and it happens almost stronger than caffeine, to where, you drink some coffee and you still function pretty optimally, even though there's a degree of tolerance there on the adenosine receptors. But there's still something there. It's still wakefulness promoting. You still drink it every morning. You definitely notice a difference. And with some nootropics, if you're not doing the right thing, you can get to a point where you kind of don't notice a difference. And, worst case scenario, where the nootropic actually starts to make you feel weird or lethargic or overstimulated or having anxiety or something like that. So I want to talk about how to prevent that. A very particular strategy, a very easy strategy on resetting tolerance with certain nootropics, and see if you can speed the process up. Sometimes it's going to take a little bit and you kind of need to be patient with that process, but there's ways to speed it up. We're going to talk about that. First, every shred of information we put on this channel is brought to you by a couple products. We got some specials on stuff, so listen up. Number one, we have a stack. It's called Cortex. It is a nootropic stack. We made it for entrepreneurs and business people, but then everybody else who needs brain performance and motivation and mental energy and verbal fluency and mood benefits, obviously can benefit from it. It's not just for nootropics, but we aim to make this elite level stack. I was taking it for about 9 months, almost every day, and God, it just jump started my productivity. It made me feel so awesome and so functional. It's kind of like modafinil, but better. Anyway, it's called Cortex. $33 at the website. If you want to save some money, use the coupon code 5, F-I-V-E, and that'll take it down to $28 at livecortex.com. If you need my help on formulating custom stacks for you, we have a service for that. It is called the Nootropics Consulting Service, and it works. You can get that at livecortex.com right now. That is $49.99, cheapest it's ever been. If you're new to nootropics, 3 options: Smarter, Better, Faster, digital book we wrote for people that are new. You can download it today. The Nootropic Starter Pack, which is Smarter, Better, Faster, plus a bottle of our nootropic stack Cortex. Or the Nootropic Starter Pack Pro. This is what you get if you really want to take your nootropics game to the next level. And that is a bottle of our stack Cortex, copy of Smarter, Better, Faster, a copy of the Racetam God Guide, 80 plus Racetam stacks, breaking down each Racetam, a copy of Stack Lists, which is my best stacks synthesized from my book of experiments over 11 years, and a consult with me. That is all one package, $89.99, best price ever. And then lastly, if you're a dude and you need to boost testosterone, look, there's ways to do it. You just have to figure out how to upregulate enzymes, how to stop testosterone from declining, and how to give yourself free testosterone. You also have to make sure you got proper micronutrient intake, things like vitamin D. So simple things, in addition to the chemical compounds you've got to take to upregulate all these processes. We've got a protocol for it. It is called the Viking Testosterone Protocol, and it works. And you can get that at livecortex.com right now. $140, started off at $285, just to give you an idea of the value of it. All right. Okay. So we've all been to the place where we've taken nootropic stacks for too long, and then they lose their effect. I had a guy who was a consulting client and was just kind of trying to figure out how to make his oxiracetam CDP choline stack just work awesomely forever. And unfortunately, and sadly, I guess for him, I could not give him the answer he was looking for. The answer was, the answer he was looking for is here's a way to be able to take this every day. You just can't, man. Neurotransmitter modification is very complex, and the brain will put up with extra quantities of neurotransmitters for a considerable period of time, and you have to know how to essentially biohack that to where you get that time in, but you don't take it to the point where, the brain starts to downregulate its response to the nootropic stack. So, as usual, the way to get around that is to develop 6 or 7 stacks that you can take over the course of a month that you've perfected in their doses through experimentation, and then cycle between those stacks, all the while kind of in between cycling off nootropics completely, on the weekends, or maybe even 3 days a week. Generally, what I found is to have that reservoir of stacks, 6 or 7 is fine for the average person. even the advanced nootropics user, but to make sure that you're only taking, stacks 4 times a week. 4 days on, 3 days off is really the best schedule. You can get away with 5 days on if you got a heavy workload and then 2 days off, so long as you're varying a little bit more between nootropic stacks. These days for me, I guess I've got a book of somewhere around 2,200 stacks that I've figured out that work well, and I constantly go in that book and make modifications and change, because sometimes the same stack isn't consistent. It might change over the course of 6 months based on your usage of it and your aging and your brain and your workout and your sleep and your testosterone if you're a guy and all this other stuff. But generally, over the course of a month, I want to say I'm taking nootropics 13 days or something, maybe a little less, sometimes a little more, but never more than 5 days. And it's just always a constant switch between nootropics. The only times that I really have the same stack that I take 2 days in a row is if there's a massive heavy workload, and then it's going to be like a modafinil racetam stack. And I'll take that exact same stack for 2 days in a row, no more than that. Offset some of the extra wakefulness at nighttime that would keep me up with some glycine or ashwagandha or theanine. And that's essentially how it works. But for those of you that have a stack that works pretty well and you're really, really happy with it, this is the strategy to get yourself to reset the tolerance. So you're running into a tolerance with this stack. You really want to keep it in the reservoir of stacks work for you, which is an ideal goal. But you've got to reset the tolerance. All right, here's the strategy. The first part of the strategy is to take an entire week and a half off of it. Okay, so 7 straight days off of it, and then perhaps 4 more days off it. So 10 or 11 days completely off of that nootropic stack. That's the first thing. The second thing you have to do is, you have to regulate neurotransmission in a way where your brain doesn't feel like it's getting an overage of one particular neurotransmitter or neurotransmitter system versus the other. And to do that, you take a B complex, and you got to take that every day, sometimes twice a day if you can tolerate it. Now, some people take B complexes and they get anxiety. There's a degree of anxiety that could come from taking B complexes, and it actually is just an excess of mental energy. And that you don't want, but if you can stand it, 2 B complexes a day, one right when you wake up and one somewhere around 2 or 3 p.m., preferably after a workout, because you just kind of cleaned out your brain and body and your blood. That's the best way to do this. That's just kind of pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is high dose fish oil. Now, for whatever reason, this seems to help the brain regulate. Obviously, it has to do with docosahexaenoic acid. That's the main fatty acid in fish oil. Your brain's made up of a lot of it. It's like some large percent of your brain is actually just DHA. And so doing that seems to reset the process. You're also, with the B complex and fish oil as a combination, working on neurogenesis, so the creation of new neurons. So that whole process is just very regulatory and puts you in a good place. And honestly, doses on fish oil seem to vary, but the best doses that I found for this is a lot. It's like 4 or 5 grams of fish oil. So now, however that breaks down in terms of DHA and EPA, most fish oil supplements are pretty comparable to one another in terms of the breakdown between DHA and EPA. So 4 or 5 grams of fish oil every day throughout this time. These compounds, the B complex and fish oil, you want to take every day, because these are not, compounds that you have to cycle between. These are just ways to get your brain back on track. The last pillar, and the majorly important pillar for all this, is you have to sleep a lot. Now, I know for hard-charging, productive people, which tend to be the type of people that take nootropics, this is difficult because you got work to do. There's stuff going on. And it's hard to sleep a lot. But, to be clear, you have to sleep a lot. And what that means is the following. Number 1, you got to get at least 7 hours of sleep at night. You got to make sure you don't go to bed too late, because that sort of offsets circadian rhythm and a bunch of other things. And you got to make sure your sleep is deep and restful. Now, there's ways to hack that, like glycine and ashwagandha, and even getting applications that see what's going on. Some people, they breathe funky when they sleep because they have reflux or sleep apnea, which is caused by some degree of reflux, in my opinion, and gut problems. And so you've got to work on those things to fix that. But you've got to get at least 7 hours of restful sleep every night. I do. I mean, there's nights when I don't get great sleep, but for the most part, I just do not feel optimal unless I'm getting 7 straight hours. Then I'm good. Now, sure, I wake up to pee or my cat is like clawing my face or my beard or whatever, and that's totally fine. But usually I go right back to sleep, and that helps. But here's the additional hack. The other thing you have to do during this process, and this actually, this refers to everything everything that resets your body, especially testosterone. It's one of the major testosterone hacks, is you have to try to nap during the day. You got to get yourself in for an hour or something, 45 minutes to an hour. You just need to re-engage that process of regulation and of, neurotransmitter replenishment and things kind of getting back to normal, right? Like we know inherently after a hangover or something, we drink a lot, or after a hard workout, or after just sort of, whatever, staying up for too late, multiple days in a row, or hard charging in any area, that sleep resets it. But somehow we don't think that when it comes to neurotransmitter reset after tolerance that we have to sleep a lot, and you absolutely have to do, okay? So here's basically the strategy summarized. First of all, take a B complex twice a day if you can, first in the morning and then somewhere around 3 p.m. The best thing to do is to work out before you take the B complex. Go work out, get everything regulated, then take the B complex. Do that for the 10 or 11 days you're cycling off of that particular stack. And it's really a good idea if you want to be super optimal to cycle off of everything during that time. You just want to give your brain a reset. The second thing is high-dose fish oil, 4 to 5 grams every day for 10 or 11 days of fish oil. You don't have to take that twice a day because that's enough. The breakdown on DHA and EPA is pretty the same across most general fish oil supplements, and so you just kind of want to get any run-of-the-mill fish oil supplement and go from there. Obviously, high quality is better. I would not go with krill oil because, the conversion is a little different, and I don't really know what to suggest to you there. I don't know, triple the dose of krill oil, you probably meet the same levels of EPA and DHA because that stuff's a lot more absorbable, biologically absorbable. The last thing is lots of sleep, 7 hours a night at least, and it's got to be pretty consistent. You have to find a way to fix your sleep. It's just critical. So, it's a multi-pronged approach. Obviously, figure out what's going wrong. If you have sleep apnea, if you've got reflux, if something's keeping you up at night, if you've got anxiety, and you got to fix those things. You got to work on that stuff. And all across our content, we've got ways to do that. If you need help on that, we've got a consulting service. We fix people's sleep all the time in that service. That aside from nootropic stack formulation is part of that process. But the other major hack, which also applies to testosterone for you guys interested in the Viking testosterone protocol or just raising testosterone, is you got to nap during the day. Like, older people inherently just know, they just naturally know. Like a cat naturally knows how to clean him or herself right away when they're a baby. They just know how to do it. It's wired into them. And it's wired into older folks to nap during the day because they need the replenishment. But you need to start doing that when you're young. I'm 35 and I nap during the day as much as I can. Sometimes at 4 p.m., I'll just sit down for a 30, 40-minute nap. And I wake up and honestly, I just feel a lot better. My brain works better, especially when I'm talking about resetting tolerance, particularly nootropics. And also my testosterone seems to be synthesized a lot better when I take naps during the day. So that is critical, okay? So if you've run into a situation where you've got a tolerance to a particular stack that you really would like to keep taking, you got to take a week and a half off, 10 or 11 days. You got to follow this protocol. After you do this, if you do it right and you're able to get yourself to sleep and you're taking all these supplements and you're really not fussing with other nootropics in the meantime, it's really the quickest way to reset the tolerance. I've done this over and over and over again, and I tried all kinds of things. I actually, for a while I was trying other compounds. Well, let me see if I can upregulate a neurotransmitter receptor site. I've got marginal results with that. Honestly, you need to take the long route. I know it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but this is the way to do it. And you'll find if you follow this protocol exactly with no shortcuts that your tolerance to the nootropic will change and you can take the stack again. But again, remember, when you get to that point where you're taking the stack again, don't overtake the stack. Have stacks to switch between and make sure you cycle that freaking stack. All right, everybody, thanks so much for listening. Remember, every shred of information we put on this channel is brought to you by a couple of products. The Cortex Stack, powerful motivation, verbal fluency, mental energy, mood stack. If you want to know why I'm so verbally fluent, a lot of times it's Cortex. It's very many other stacks too, but Cortex just works for that. Buy it at livecortex.com. If you need a discount, totally fine. Just use the coupon code 5, F-I-V-E, at livecortex.com. If you need my help on figuring out your sleep, figure out nootropic stacks that work for you, get the Nootropics Consulting Service. It's a 40-minute call with me, 15 follow-up email correspondence. Says, look, we can get stuff that works. Just got to trust me. You just got to go to livecortex.com, get it done. If you're new to Nootropics, 3 products, either Smarter, Better, Faster, a digital book we wrote for people that are new, the Nootropics Starter Pack, which is Smarter, Better, Faster Plus, a bottle of our Stack Cortex, or the Nootropics Starter Pack Pro, which is Smarter, Better, Faster, a bottle of our Stack Cortex, the Racetam God Guide, a copy of Stack List, and a consult with me. $89.99, best nootropics package on the planet. And lastly, if you're a man, talking about testosterone, and you feel like you don't have high test, and that's characterized by libido, it's characterized by energy, by the ability to build muscle, shed fat, wake up, spring out of bed, motivated and energized, just like have a calm, cool, masculine focus throughout the day. It changes your life when you raise test, and it's like a freaking longevity hormone. You got to raise it. We've got a protocol for it. It's called the Viking Testosterone Protocol, and you can get that at livecortex.com. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Rock on. Talk to you next time.